Hi, I'm Randy, and today I wanted to talk to you about the two thieves on the cross. And what I've seen going on is that those that are faith alone, that believe that it's faith in Christ alone that you're saved, they use the thief on the cross as see. He didn't have a chance to do any works. And Jesus, when he asked Jesus to remember him when he went into his kingdom, uh, Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Okay, and so the faith alone people use this as an example. See, you don't have to do works in order to enter God's kingdom. Okay, it's just by faith. Well. The other apologists that believe that there's faith and then works, and it's faith and works or obedience that gets you into heaven. Now, this one apologist brought this up that said that showed that this thief actually did a work, and so because he believed in Christ, that he was a king and that he had a kingdom, and that wasn't enough, so he showed that this thief did a work, and because he did this work he gets to go to heaven. Okay, so it's in Luke, and it starts about verse 33, when he's being crucified, and then it goes on through Luke uh, 43, when Jesus says to the thief, "Today you will be with me in paradise." So that this happens, we don't know the time frame, how from the time of the crucifixion to the time that the thief says, "Remember me when you come enter your kingdom." We're not sure if it's like an hour, 2 hours. We're not sure how long that takes place from the time that they were crucified to the time this dialogue went on. But what I wanted to bring up is that we're not sure, when Luke wrote this. We're not exactly sure the mindset of the thief at the time that he rebuked the other thief. We don't know if he was at that time, a believer in Christ. It probably happened almost immediately before he turned to Christ and said, "Remember me when you enter your kingdom." It could have been immediately. It could have been a few minutes. We're not sure when that took place. Um, but the point I'm driving at is that um, he had a change of heart, the thief, because earlier when they were being crucified, people were walking by and they were mocking Jesus. The hierarchy of the church, the Sanhedrin, the leaders of the Sanhedrin were there, and they were mocking Christ. The Roman soldiers were mocking Christ. The sign above Jesus' head, King of the Jews, was mocking Christ. Okay. And then the two thieves that were on his left and right, they were mocking Christ. Okay. So, what happens to this one thief over this period of time that we don't know how long that period of time is? Something happened. Okay. And what I think probably may have happened, because these thieves were probably more than thieves. They were being crucified, so it's probably more than theft. They probably did a lot more than that, and they knew what they did wrong, and and the one thief said that we deserve what we're getting, but this man, he's innocent. He's not getting what he deserves because he's innocent. Okay, so there's something that goes on in this one thief's mind during this period, and we can only guess. Now, for most people, when someone is innocent and everybody's mocking them and making fun of them, and they're being picked on and bullied, most people usually come to their defense or stick up for them. I think that this thief saw enough of what was going on and looked at Jesus and saw the humility the suffering, and probably heard prophecies from his early childhood of the coming Messiah. When he was in prison, and we don't know how long he was in prison, but he probably heard about Jesus entering into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. He probably heard about this so-called Messiah, this false Messiah that was doing miracles. We're not sure exactly what he heard, but he must have heard something. And he probably had a negative view on this man Jesus, because when he's first crucified, he's hurling insults at Jesus also. But something changes, okay? And during this time that he's on the cross, he rebukes the other thief for hurling insults at him. And then he tells Jesus, he goes, remember me when you enter your kingdom. Okay? Not save me, but just remember me when you enter your kingdom. So he knew that Jesus was a king. He came to that realization, and that he had a kingdom. We just don't know exactly when that happened. Was it that moment when he started speaking that? Or was it 10 minutes before or a half hour before? We don't know. We just don't know. It's all speculation. It's all guess. So was he saved when he rebuked the other thief? We don't know. Possibly, but possibly not. So when they point to this, this apologist points to him and say, oh, yeah, he had faith in Jesus, but faith alone isn't enough. Because he says he rebuked the other thief, and that's a work. See, he had faith plus works. Well, he doesn't know that for sure. I don't know for that for sure. I don't know in his mind when he actually came to the knowledge that Jesus was a king and that he had a kingdom. I don't know. And he doesn't know. And no one for sure knows when he actually believed that Jesus was who he claimed to be. And it was actually a very superficial knowledge of Christ, and not like the knowledge that the disciples had that lived with him for 3 years. His was very superficial. He goes, he's looking at this man hanging crucified next to him, and he hears the words that he speaks. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So this thief comes to the realization that Jesus is a king and he has a kingdom. He believes he is the Messiah. Okay, so Jesus says, today you will be with me in paradise. Now those that believe in works or faith in works, it's not that simple for them. It's not like, well, yeah, the thief came to believe in Christ, but he had to do something. That wasn't enough. And so they claimed that his rebuke of the other thief was the work that he needed in order to be saved, okay, to enter Jesus' kingdom. Now let's look at it this way. What happens if the thief didn't rebuke the other thief? And he turns to Jesus hanging on the cross, dying in pain, and he goes, Jesus, remember me when you enter into your kingdom. And Jesus says, no, you haven't done a work. Really? You really think those words would come out of Jesus' mouth? No, not at all. So this whole idea of forcing works into this story is really sad. It's actually obscene. There's a prophecy that Jesus would be crucified with people who have criminals, and so that was prophetic. But if that prophecy didn't have, God didn't have to have that prophecy to where Jesus was going to be crucified with these malefactors or these thieves. He could have changed the prophecy. He could have changed the narrative. But he did it for a purpose, to tell us a beautiful story. And in this story, it talks about two thieves. Both hurled insults at Jesus. But One repented. One had a change of mind. One turned to Jesus and acknowledged that he was a king and that he had a kingdom. And in doing so, Jesus said to him, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Now that's this story. That's a story that God allowed to take place when his son was crucified. And it's a beautiful story of forgiveness and God's mercy and grace. And when people try to interject this one work into the story, which may not even have happened because we don't know when this thief actually believed in Christ. But in doing so, it's like taking a bucket of paint and throwing it on a beautiful piece of artwork and destroying it. And that's how I feel when they try to interject this so-called act of work that gets this thief hanging on the cross, dying, saved. It's obscene. It's terrible. But people are doing it because they're so caught up in faith and works that they can't let that loophole go. They can't say, oh, that thief made it to heaven without doing anything. He has to do something. So we'll say that he rebuked the other thief after he knew Christ, and that was his work. Wow. I don't get it that people force that in there and destroy a beautiful story that God had intended for us to see, that God is merciful. And then when you have no hope, when you're hanging on the cross, and there's people that are, in their lives, they feel like they're hanging on that cross, and they feel like they're dying or want to die, and they can't get off that cross, whether it's addiction to drugs or alcohol, or they lived a life of of being abused emotionally or physically or sexually. But they're on this cross, and they see no way and no hope of getting out of the situation they're in. Well, we look at people that are on that cross. There's God's mercy, and you can cry out to God and say, "Help me," because I can't help myself. I don't know how to get off this cross. I have absolutely no strength, no idea, no hope. Help me. And God will hear you. He will meet you where you're at. And he wants to deliver you. He wants to give you peace of mind. He wants to give you joy. He wants to give you hope. He wants to break the bonds of the chains that have had you wrapped around you all your life. And he wants to set you free. And he did it when Christ went to the cross. He conquered the sin that you committed, and then he rose from the dead to conquer death. Some people believe they're on that cross and they go, I have done so much bad in my life. God could never, ever forgive me. So I'm on the cross and I'm going to die on the cross and there's no hope for me. Well, there is hope for you, because any sin that you committed, God can forgive through Christ's sacrifice. Any sin. And there's nothing you have to do. Now, they would have you believe that, yeah, you can have faith, but you have to have works. Well, when you're totally helpless and feel like you have no power, and you cry out to God, you can't do anything but cry out, and God will give you that gift, and it's a free gift, and he'll lay it right on your lap. And it's life through faith in Jesus Christ. So that's what I wanted to leave with you today. Okay? That faith in Christ, by his grace, not of anything you do, that he will give you this priceless free gift of life through him. I'll leave you with that. Okay, take care.